This is a part of an ongoing series of program UPF is holding around the world to bring attention to the issue of peace on the Korean Peninsula.
Yes, there is a role for Europe to play within the Korean conflict and also within the North Korean nuclear issue. I want to be optimistic about the possibilities, but of course we don't know. There's a lot we don't know about what North Korea's sort of red lines are, for example, how serious it is about regarding South Korea as a hostile state and giving up on the goal of improvement of relations to the US. And so that's where Europe's role really comes in, I think, in terms of leading the kind of behind the scenes, the track 1.5, track 2 negotiations, which will be precisely about that, about seeing what the room for maneuver is. And of course, Europe has a good record in that regard. Other thing I would mention, where I think Europe can certainly play a role, is in the area of humanitarian assistance and aid, I think most, if not all, of the humanitarian NGOs that have a presence on the ground, or at least did until the pandemic, were European.
That the North Korea Supreme Leader made it clear at the end of the year 2023 that South Korea was a hostile state. And he even declared to abolish his pursuit for the peaceful reunification. Having abandoned the legacy of his grandfather and father, where is that leader planning to lead the country? Even in South Korea, the enthusiasm for the reunification is sharply weakening. It feels as if the division of the Korean Peninsula is becoming increasingly solidified.
Most Korean people concerned the current situation seems to make the unification of the Korean Peninsula more difficult. Most of all, in my view, solid diplomatic support by European nations would be most important. For example, European nations need to back up South Korea's position to dismantle the North Korean nuclear program and contribute to promoting better relations between the North and the South. So it might be better for European nations to reopen diplomatic relations with Pyongyang as much as they can and as soon as possible.
I do think, as been noted, that the European role is potentially very significant. It could be very significant. North Korea has reached out to Europe on multiple occasions and is doing that even today, even if it also basically has refused to let European states open up their embassies in Pyongyang. And there are things that we can do. And I mean, before here it was mentioned 1.5 track diplomacy, academic exchanges. The North Koreans are very much engaged in this, but the North Koreans are willing to engage in these sort of 1.5 track diplomacy events.
And I'd like to refer to the experience of a British scholar and politician, Glyn Ford, who as a member of the European Parliament was instrumental in developing the first large-scale humanitarian aid from the EU to North Korea during the times of famine earlier in this century. Ford acknowledges that North Korea is a flawed and repressive state, yet he sees that there is a way to engage North Korean leaders, part of whom are desperate to modernize and end their isolation. This view resonates with us in UPF because our founder, Dr. Moon, when the Berlin Wall collapsed and the Cold War came to an end, seized the opportunity to go and meet with Kim Il-sung at that time at the risk of his life, and was able to engage him in opening a dialogue with the United States in 1991 and in the following years. We in UPF pursue the initiative that was stated in our 2022 summit resolution in Korea as 2 states toward 1 nation, 1 peninsula, 1 people, 1 culture, considering that peace in Northeast Asia is essential to the world.